Every week, college football games hinge on a single word.
Touchdown. Touchdown, Texas. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown, Wisconsin. Touchdown. 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 Touchdown, Stanford. Touchdown. Touchdown, Alabama. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Touchdown. Wow.
This is Touchdown Radio. Here's Gino Torretta and Taylor Zarzour.
And it's great to be with you as we get ready for Week 5 of the college football season. An outstanding slate of games that we are going to get into here coming up in just a little bit. Torretta has the lead on me now. Unreal. It was a hard week, by the way, last week. I was
going to say, I forget my picks as soon as I make them. I'm like, I don't think I did very good.
Well, we both lost with Arkansas at Memphis. Inexplicably, I picked Utah against Texas Tech. Then again, so did you. You picked Auburn in the Oklahoma-Auburn game, even though the officials have apologized to Auburn. They did not give them a victory in the game. We both picked Nebraska against Michigan. Inexplicably, I picked Illinois, who got absolutely crushed by Indiana, and my upset pick did not hit. East Carolina did not beat BYU. So you went 6-4, and I went 5-5 in the picks. It was a little harder to pick games last week, Gino. What stood out to you? You saw Miami beat the offenseless, and I guess to Gator fans, offensive, offenseless Florida Gators on Saturday night. Obviously, the Oklahoma win against Auburn's a big story, although Mateer is hurt now. Arkansas losing to Memphis would be something to be considered, too, from last week. What stood out to you?
Well, I think, just going with what I saw with my own eyes, Miami's got an impressive defense. I mean, to hold Florida to 25 yards of offense and 1 first down in the first half, the disappointing thing I would say to a Miami fan is it was only 10-0, and Florida was in the game until the middle of the fourth quarter. So Miami's got to fix their offense. Florida's got to, I don't know what they got to do to their offense. I mean, Lagway ended with 60 passing yards at the end of the game. It was not a good performance by the Gators. They better, their defense played out of their mind based on, on that. Indiana, holy cow. And then Cignetti after, man, have you ever seen a coach so candid with his comments?
Unreal.
Yeah, we just thought our D-line could beat their offense, and they did. And then we just broke their will and pounded it. I was like, holy cow. This guy's like, man, he's just like, he ain't missing no words.
No.
He mentioned Oklahoma. That's a big injury. I mean, because we're talking about, as the SEC schedule heats up, we've been talking about the last few weeks, is the SEC going to be like the old Pac-12 where they cannibalize each other? You have one of the best teams in the conference so far, now going to be without their starting quarterback, but man, the defense looks solid, 9 sacks. Texas Tech needs to be for real, even if they needed their backup quarterback. Hit a hell of a day, even though it was only a half, 13-16, a couple tutties against Utah. And listen, you mentioned we both picked Nebraska. They've lost 28 consecutive times to a top 25 opponent.
That's wild.
I mean, this is Nebraska. Like, we're old enough to remember where Nebraska, It was like they laced them up and they won the Big 8 and they won the Big 12. And to lose that many in a row is, wow, it's kind of shocking.
It is, and Tommy Frazier was there, but Tommy Frazier doesn't play football for Nebraska anymore. And you're right. Yeah, it's kind of wild. The 21st century has been bad to the Huskers ever since they got crushed by your Canes in the national championship game. The program has gone in the wrong direction, and I wonder if they're in the right conference. I think that their inability to recruit to the Big Ten has been hard for them. If they were I wonder if they were still in the Big 12 or in another league, maybe if they would have some more success. Getting back to what you said about Indiana. So I think it's fair to challenge Curt Cignetti and the powers that be at Indiana about their schedule. The fact that they aren't playing a power opponent in the non-conference schedule moving forward. Like all these teams across the country are going to play a minimum of 10 power opponents. And we're going to talk much more about the schedule coming up in the next segment. But the fact that Indiana's not doing that, they should be penalized for that. And when the rankings come out and when we decide who plays for the college football playoff, that should be factored in. But what also should be factored in is what they just did to one of the best teams they'll play all year. Illinois was ranked 9th in the country, and they beat them 63-10. Now, maybe we should argue Illinois shouldn't be ranked 9th in the country. But, Illinois is seen as a top half team in the Big Ten, and Indiana whipping them like that has to be strongly considered. And I give Cignetti and his team a lot of credit for that. Every time they've played in a big game, last year against Ohio State or in the playoff against Notre Dame, they haven't looked good and it hasn't been competitive. And the fact that they were able to do that, to me, that's a real sign of Indiana taking the next step, regardless of who they're playing each week.
Yeah, well, first off, Mendoza, I saw him firsthand when he was at Cal against Miami, and even before that, I think against the USC game. He makes great decisions. He's a smart kid, accurate with the football, and he seems to be clicking. But I guess Old Dominion fans, Kennesaw State fans, and Indiana State fans are gonna send their ire to Taylor Zarzour's email after the comments, but they do have a great draw. I mean, you look at their schedule. Let's go through the rest of it. I mean, you got basically Oregon and Penn State. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Ohio State. So they will be tested over the year, and over the course of the season, at least a couple times. And I think that people, or at least the rankings, should be reflective of what the team looked like at the end of the year. And what I mean by that is the Alabama Florida State game. And everybody's like, well, that's hey, Florida State's not ranked. Florida State looks like a lot better team than they were a season ago. So you have to factor that in. I don't really care if you're playing the first month of the season and you tell me, oh, this team was top 10. And at the end of the year, they come out unranked. That just means the people ranking at the start of the year, they were dead wrong.
Right.
I'd rather look at it like, okay, well, not where they were ranked when the two opponents played each other, but where those teams ended up the season. Hey, you beat an 11-1 team. Yeah, that's more impressive, than I beat a top 15 opponent that ends up unranked at the end of the year. So I hope that the ranking people do that. But listen, Cignetti has just been, I guess people question or doubt at times. The dude can coach football, and it's not his fault. He didn't schedule he didn't get the best. He got the best draw in Big Ten based on their easy scheduling. But you're right, they need to play, and this is when we started talking about the reclassification of conferences and the movement amongst conference teams and no more Pac-12, and all that I've ever said is, all right, when are we going to have just a schedule of the power teams against the power teams? Piece off some money. There's a lot there. Give it to the smaller schools where it's not a competition. When we lace up a power opponent to them and play each other. We're going to get more of that as we go on, which what they kind of decided after this week. But to me, you're right. Okay, should Indiana be playing Indiana State? I mean, a lot of schools are playing people that I didn't know that there was a Long Island University that had a football team. Yet Florida played them, and that's their only victory this year. So, I would hope that we get to, hey, let's play. It would be like the NFL kind of dipping down to college, and hey, let's play a preseason game against one of these college teams.
More about the schedule coming up in just a minute. I don't know that it's fair to ask you this question because there have been some teams that have played multiple games against power competition, and there are some teams that haven't played any power competition yet. So with that being said, how can you tell me, Gino, who the best 2, 3, 4 teams in college football are right now, or can you?
You can't. You can't, and to me, it's almost like early on when we say, "Hey, this is, a huge game," and this, I'm like, "Are we really sure that's a huge game?" Yeah, it looks like. I mean, let take last week for example, Michigan, Nebraska, two blue bloods, great histories amongst the teams, and the universities and national championships of all that. But is it truly, when we look at the end of the season, you know what? That was a matchup for the ages. We don't know. And but there's nothing wrong with not knowing that right now at the start of the season. Like, I don't really care where somebody's ranked right now. It's where they're ranked at the end of the year. And I just, you watch and you see teams will get better. Um, I've said this, the NFL with 2 preseason games, NFL football is not the same right now as it's going to be in 6-8 weeks when they played, and you see guys and teams develop and play together. And I would say the same thing with college now with the transfer portal and that. We don't know how good a team's going to turn into, and I don't put a lot of belief or, hey, this is the second ranked team in the country right now. Are they? Do we really know? Because this is when it starts. I mean, basically, we start seeing conference matchups against, powers where you're like, okay, these teams, they had a good season last year. It looks like they got a bunch of players coming back. This should be a battle. And then you see, okay, let's see what they look like on the field and how that transpires. Is there an injury? Does a guy come in and take somebody's place and do well? So that's I don't really put much credence into the rankings right now.
Well, to your point, the schedule gets significantly better this week. Tomorrow night, you have FSU at Virginia. You have TCU at Arizona State. That's just Friday. And then on Saturday, you have USC at Illinois. You have Georgia Tech at Wake Forest. Notre Dame at Arkansas. That's all at noon. Ohio State's at Washington at 3:30. LSU at Ole Miss. Auburn at Texas A&M. Indiana at Iowa. That's just all at 3:30. Tennessee is a one-loss team at undefeated Mississippi State at 4:15. And then at night, Penn State and Oregon, Georgia and Alabama, and the nightcap is BYU at Colorado. This is to me, week 1 was outstanding. To me, this is the best week we've had so far in college football.
Yeah, there's no question. The one thing, and I was thinking, I'm curious your take. Like, you're going through the games, I'm like, wow, that's Friday game. Florida State, they might have a trap week. You got TCU going to Arizona State. You have these other games, and I'm like, and I seriously, I'm like, when was Alabama at Georgia? And listen, I may offend some people, but that might be the 4th or 5th game that I look at to watch over the course of Saturday. I mean, when was that the last time? Usually that's like, man, it's Bama, Georgia. The whole college football world stops for that game. And I would say that's not the case this year.
It's great. I think that's great for the sport. I mean, the game will be great in Athens on Saturday night, but it's great for the sport. We have all these other options. We'll break those games down coming up in just a little while. But up next, I want to ask Gino about the schedule for 2026. There's some changes that are going to be made to a couple of different conferences. And do we think they are good changes for college football? We'll talk about that next on Touchdown Radio Tailgate. Gino, we look at what's going on in the Big 12 and the Big 10, 9 conference games that those power leagues are playing. And the Big 12 is going to play a minimum of 10 power opponents, which means outside of the 9 conference games, you have to play one additional power opponent from another league. The Big 10 does not have that rule, but they do play 9 conference games against each other. Most of their teams play at least one other power opponent, but it's not mandatory. It is in the ACC and the SEC starting next year. The ACC and SEC are both going from just 8 conference games to 9 conference games in 2026. The Southeastern Conference has announced that they'll have 3 permanent opponents per team, and you will play the other 12 teams every 2 years. You'll play 6 in year 1, and you'll play the other 6 in year 2, which means you play every team in the SEC over a 2-year span. Give me any reason why I shouldn't love what the Southeastern Conference just decided to do starting next year.
Well, on the off year that you don't have one of those rivalry games that's been played over the last probably 50 to 100 years. But I would say this, to give up that to get 9 conference games and that, I think you're actually addition by subtraction. Even if you lose that game, that okay, I get it, and the historic nature of the game and the history of it, but this is going to give us what we've talked about: better games each week against tougher opponents. Now, is it going to be tougher to get through the Southeastern Conference? Sure, it's going to get tougher. And it's going to be tougher at the end of the year when that playoff committee says, okay, who's going to get in the playoffs? Because just like you said at the start, you're like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a year where there's a 3-loss team that's knocking on the door in that playoffs. And I think that this is going to at least give us some kind of uniformity in college football, to where the 9 conference games, okay, we can see, hopefully there's some of those crossover with those other games where they're playing another power opponent, but we're not going to have weeks, early in a season where we're like, this is kind of a disappointing matchup. This is just a gimme. We're paying some school to come in to play a glorified scrimmage. So I think that if it helps us get away from that, I'm a fan. Now, is it going to cost some rivalry games over the course of some years? Yeah.
And just as an example with Georgia and Alabama, to what you're talking about, let's just use them since they've been the best 2 programs in the SEC for a number of years. Georgia is playing Auburn, Florida, and South Carolina every year, and they're rotating 6 and 6 against the other 12 teams over a 2-year span. So Georgia's not playing Tennessee every year. They're not playing Vanderbilt or Kentucky every year, which is that'll take an adjustment, not to see the Dogs playing those teams, especially playing Tennessee. Alabama is going to continue to play Auburn and Tennessee, of course, and their other permanent team is Mississippi State, meaning Alabama is not going to play LSU every year. They're going to play them every other year, but they're not playing them every year, at least over this 4-year span. They can revisit this after 4 years and make changes if necessary. So to your point, there's a couple of big games that we're not going to see every year, but I would also agree. I think it's worth it to get a 9-game conference schedule. It's better games throughout the entirety of the season, which certain SEC network broadcasters really appreciate. And I think that it's the same thing in the ACC and the Big 12 and the Big 10. You're going to see 10 power opponents per team, with the exception of just a few Big 10 teams. Everybody is going to have a better schedule, which is great for college football. You said ultimately you'd like to see just the power conferences play each other and not play anyone else. And I do think from a viewing standpoint, from an audience standpoint, I do think that would make a lot of sense. From a competition standpoint, it would make a lot of sense. I think if we're going to continue to support and fund the group of 5 in the FCS, then it makes sense to play a game or 2 against them and give them the big paycheck that comes with it. I would think also that the coaches of these power leagues, Gino, like having it's not an off week, but it is a get right week, a right to get a week to get healthy again. So, mixing a couple of those games, 2 basically, into your schedule is good for the overall health of your team. But from a competitive standpoint, where we're headed is better than where we are now. And I love that.
No question. The one thing too is as you were talking, is how many years, and listen, we've been doing this a long time, where you say at the start of the season, wow, how is Florida, Georgia, Tennessee going to get through the SEC East this year? Or who's going to come out of the SEC West of LSU, Auburn,
right,
Alabama? You had a legitimate discussion, because you're like, wow, this team's really good, but they're in the SEC West, and to get through that gauntlet, it's going to be brutal. So I would probably say on some of those years where the SEC West, old SEC West, was that powerful because of the new scheduling, maybe one of those SEC West teams doesn't play as tough of a older, the old schedule makeup, if you will. But I think that it's going to give us more power games against conference opponents, which is better.
One other thing I have to ask you about before we get into these matchups. We've already had 3 power teams fire their coaches, only 4 weeks into the season. Brent Pry is gone at Virginia Tech. Deshaun Foster is no longer the coach at UCLA. And Mike Gundy is no longer the coach at Oklahoma State, which is going to take some getting used to, given his long run that he had and a lot of success. Obviously, in recent years, he didn't have much, and this team has gotten off to a really poor start. But he was the head coach of the team for 20 years. He was there in Stillwater for 25 years. He, of course, was a player at Oklahoma State in the late 80s. He was a position coach there for 6 years before leaving and coming back for a 25-year run, 20 as the head coach, and now he is gone. Do you think we're going to see some more changes? Billy Napier has the hottest seat, it seems, at Florida, but is this the new norm of in-season coaching fires?
Well, you'd hate to see a new norm, but I don't think there's any question. I mean, having obviously just broadcast the Miami Florida game, seeing the Florida people, and really the discussion amongst the Florida people is not if but when. He's going to get let go, but it's a matter of, there was rumors, well, you don't want to do it this early, because if you do it this early, guys are just going to stop playing and try to take their red shirt and wait for the new coaching staff. So they were trying to wait until after, I guess it's game 5 to make that decision. But that was just kind of the rumors going around. The question is it better to do it now versus wait? Listen, I don't think that if you target somebody, couldn't you target somebody or put together, if you're going to make this decision, is Oklahoma State better off not having Coach Gundy there to lead their program for the rest of the season? I'd argue that I don't think they're better not having another coach with that experience on their sidelines. And couldn't they target, go after, or not even go after, just here, this is what we want to do, this is the direction we want to go, and then wait to make that decision till later in the year. So, it's interesting dynamic. It seems like it's more NFL in nature of getting rid of a coach, and especially this early. I mean, this is like almost like a bad baseball start in the majors, and they get rid of a coach in the first month of the season. You're like going, well, if you got rid of him now, why didn't you get rid of him last year? Did you really think that it was going to be better off? So I don't know if it's the best timing of the world. Listen, you made the decision. Whoever made the decision, the guy's your head coach. So I would think probably let him play out a little bit longer, because I don't think it does anything to benefit the program.
Yeah, I guess the flip side of that they would say, they wouldn't say this publicly, but I think privately they would say it gives us a head start on trying to find who our next head coach is, if in fact it does that. Like if you are actively out there trying to figure out who your next coach is going to be, and you can pull that off, before anyone else can, then maybe it makes some sense. But if you don't go get the guy you wanted, then I totally agree with you. And most times they don't go get the guy they wanted. So we'll see how some of this shakes out. If John Gruden, Gino, if that's who you want your coach to be, and I don't know if he's going to college or the pros next year. He keeps telling everybody he's going to coach again. But if you have decided John Gruden is the guy you want to be your next head coach, and you can go hire him in the next 6 to 10 weeks and get a head start on everyone else and really raise money for your program, then that makes sense. But if you can't pull that off and you're going to get shot down by the guys you want, then I'm totally with you. It doesn't make much sense.
Okay, and I'll give you the other side. If, let's say, John Gruden is your guy, and you have a guy that's on thin ice, and you're probably going to terminate him at the end of the year, You don't think you could call John Gruden or his representatives and say, listen, we really want to make a change, but the change is going to come if we can get coach. What are the odds of
Yeah.
that? I don't know. That's kind of how I would make a decision
Sure.
based on if I'm making, or I'm calling, Jimmy Sexton or Athletes First or any other of the big agencies that have a lot of coaches and say, listen, this is an untenable situation. We're going to be looking. Who do you think? And say these are coaches that we've identified,
Mm-hmm.
and just what are the odds? And that's where at least kind of that's how I would kind of make a decision of, because listen, when you're let's say you're UCLA, for example, like from the inside out, you may think, man, this is a great job. It's in Southern California. We're in the Big Ten. We're in a power conference. This, that. But you're in that bubble. From the outside, maybe the view of the UCLA job is not. That's a great job. That's a great destination. And you have a difference of an opinion from a coach, a prospective coach, where that coach is like, you know what, my job's better right now. I'm not going to go there. And I think that's what you have to get your head around if you're in any one of these situations, making the decision, who's going to lead the program. Is this truly a job that a lot of guys want? Is this truly a job that who we target is going to want to come here?
Well, there could be more about this in the weeks to come. We'll see if there are more openings this week, next week, and the next few weeks. There are a few guys that seem to be coaching for their jobs on a week-by-week basis. Let's go through the biggest matchups of Week 5. The slate is sensational. We talk about it next on Touchdown Radio Tailgate. Gino, I'm trying to pick which game I'm most excited about this week. I always love Georgia and Alabama. I have family that is going to the game, and my family is divided, by the way, from mother and siblings to children that love this game.
Children
Georgia,
and grandchildren.
yeah. Paying out-of-state tuition for one, and watching my mother and other family members cheer for the other side. That game I'm excited about. I think it's going to be great. The Cowbells in Starkville. How does Tennessee and Joey Aguilar handle that this week? That would be on my list. I'm really intrigued by Indiana playing at Iowa. As you know, you were there earlier this year. That's not an easy place to play. And Kurt Signetti's been throwing more shots at Illinois this week, saying how much harder this week's opponent is than last week's opponent. And so those would be games that I would really want to watch. Penn State and Oregon, I'm all in for that on Saturday night. But I actually think you have the game of the week. If there was one game, if I could only pick one, I would pick number 4 LSU at number 13 Ole Miss. A 3:30 kick that you can hear on SiriusXM, courtesy of Touchdown Radio. You can watch on ABC. I don't want you to pick the game yet. I want you to do it in the next segment. But I honestly do not know who's going to win this game.
Well, look at last year. I mean, LSU, they end up winning the game at home, but they didn't have a lead until the overtime. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy of how that game worked out. It was a bunch of scoring back and forth. You have experience at LSU at quarterback in Nussmeier. You got this Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and his kind of mad science with the offense and being able to put up points on the board no matter who the quarterback is, I would say. But it should be a great matchup. It's an outstanding environment, obviously inside and outside the stadium. But listen, the Trinidad Chambliss, he started a couple weeks ago against Arkansas, and they didn't say he was going to start until the last minute, based on Simmons' ankle. And now here's a kid that he gets to Oxford in the summer, and he practices, and listen, that's tough. He learns a new offense and that, and he gets thrown in the starting role. And now all I know about him is he led a team to a national championship, scored 50 plus touchdowns last year at Ferris State. So I'm like, well, let's see this kid play. He can spin it, he can run it. He's an athlete. He seemed accurate with the ball. I think I'm a fairly good evaluator of quarterback talent and play. And I said, this guy might have got Wally pipped Simmons, because Chambliss, I didn't see a weakness in his game, and he's only going to get better with more experience. But it was fun to watch, and then I was like, how can Lane Kiffin find a quarterback this good in the summer, yet we have Power 4 schools can't find a quarterback over the course of several years? And you just kind of scratch your head like, wow, this kid could be anywhere, yet he came here to be the backup. Like, I watched him throw one time, and I told you the same thing with King Ward. I watched him throw one time, and I'm like, who the hell evaluated this kid for the NFL? He should be going to the NFL. And I'm watching Chambliss thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, if this kid was available to go to a Power 4 school, why wouldn't he have gone after they won the national championship a season ago? Who's watching film?
My favorite ever was when we were doing a North Carolina, South Carolina game in Charlotte, and Mitch Trubisky was the backup for the Tar Heels. And you lost your mind in warm-ups watching this guy warm up and saying, how on earth is this a guy not the starting quarterback? Now, he was one of the top picks in the NFL draft, and he turned into being a backup in the NFL. But physically, you saw him spinning it in warm-ups and lost it. I love it when you go down to the field and that happens, and I hope you do that in Oxford on Saturday. I truly think that game comes down to the wire, and you could convince me either way. And the same can be said for Penn State and Oregon on Saturday night. The Ducks are more battle tested. They look great to start the year. As great a season as they had last year in the regular season, this team looks at least as good, if not better, than last year's team. And nobody thought that they were going to be, at least outside the program, they didn't. Penn State's not tested yet. Penn State's ranked third in the country because of what they did last year, not because of what they've done this year. That's another one, Gino, where I really don't know what's going to happen. And I love when I don't know what's going to happen. That's my favorite thing about sports.
Well, there's no question. Listen, Penn State is one of the toughest environments I've ever played in. It's an old erector set for a stadium. When the crowd is not covered up in winter gear, the noise is louder. It just reverberates off the metal and sends it down to the field. Now, it's supposed to be the whiteout game, and I tell people this, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cute when we played there. It was a noon kick, so they hadn't got all primed up yet. But I was like, man, they're throwing marshmallows on the field. That's kind of interesting. You think like, would somebody throw a marshmallow? Well, I didn't realize that the students open the bags of marshmallows, and marshmallows get hard as rocks when they're exposed to the element and the air. And then when you put a penny or a couple pennies in the middle of a marshmallow, they come flying out of the stands at a rapid pace, and hitting your helmets isn't fun. So but it is one of the best college environments there at Penn State. You mentioned not being tested. Allard's been tested. Their stars have been tested. But you're right. It is, okay, what are you going to do this year? Are you going to be able to make that play? Are you going to be able to get over the hump? And that's what they've heard. That's what, their coaches heard for a number of years. I would say last year doing the Ohio State game at Penn State, they're up by 2 touchdowns. They get the ball first and goal inside the 5. They're down at the 3. And they didn't score. Ohio State stones them, turns them away and ends up coming back and winning the football game. So are they going to be able to punch it in and make enough plays to beat Oregon? I would probably say if this game comes down where it's a great matchup, just what we wanted, two top teams pounding against each other, I don't think the result of this game is going to matter much in the playoffs. I would probably venture to say that both of them are going to make the playoffs at the end of the season.
Well, I just don't know how I'm expected to watch Notre Dame, Arkansas, or USC, Illinois, or LSU, Ole Miss while the Ryder Cup is going on. This is so hard. This is so hard to do all of this in the same week as the Ryder Cup.
Well, I think Lincoln Riley would agree with you because he's like a 9 a.m. body clock kickoff from a 11 p.m. body clock kickoff. So he's not too happy, and I would agree with him. I just don't think you can pull these West Coast teams.
I know Torretta will have.
9 a.m.
I know Torretta will have a device on the Ryder Cup while he's in Vaught Hemingway Stadium on Saturday afternoon, seeing how things shake out before we get into singles on Sunday. By the way, you can listen to the Ryder Cup right here on SiriusXM Channel 92. You can listen to Torretta and Zarzour make picks on these games coming up next on Touchdown Radio Tailgate. Time to make some picks on these outstanding matchups in Week 5. This game does not count, Gino. FSU at Virginia. Any chance the Wahoos pull off the upset here?
I think there's a chance they cover on a short week. It's in a road team in Florida State, but Florida State looks pretty good. But I think there's a chance Virginia covers. Okay,
but you're going to take the Noles to win the game. Let's get to the games that we are picking, beginning with another matchup on Friday night. Number 24 TCU is at Arizona State. The Sun Devils are favored by 3 against the Frogs. Gino is 1 game up on me for the season. You're 31-9. I'm 30-10, so I'll go first. I'm picking the Sun Devils against the Frogs.
Well, I would say this. I think TCU has looked more impressive, but I'm betting Sam Leavitt actually gets it turned around here at home, and I'll take the Forks up. I'll take Arizona State as well.
You mentioned the early kick, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Number 21 USC at number 23 Illinois. Trojans favored by 6.5. Give me SC in an early breakfast win.
I told you weeks ago USC is going to be battling for the win in the Big Ten Conference, and I would agree. This is just going to be a road test, and Mayava is a stud quarterback. They have some weapons, offense. I'm taking the Trojans as well. Fight on.
Number 22 Notre Dame is at Arkansas. The Irish favored by 4.5. Also a noon kick. That game is on ABC. By the way, the SC game is on Fox. I'll take the Irish on the road to beat the Hogs, who have had 2 straight heartbreaking losses.
See, this is where you put this game. You know I'm not going to ever pick Notre Dame.
Yes.
So when you feel that they're going to win, you put them on the schedule. You know what? I'm taking Arkansas no matter what, but I think Arkansas is going to bounce back after that loss to Memphis, and their offense is going to play better. They're going to make enough plays to win that game.
Number 9, Texas A&M is a 6.5-point favorite against Auburn at 3:30 on ESPN. Who you got?
You know, this is one of the tougher games. I think Auburn played very well last week, even though they gave up 9 sacks. Is Texas A&M a top 10 team? Their home is a tough place to play. I'm going to say Auburn goes on the road, and this is where the SEC starts to cannibalize itself, and Auburn wins.
Well, you stole my pick, so I'll take Texas A&M. I was going to pick Auburn. All right, we got to go fast here. At number 4, LSU is at number 13, Ole Miss. A 3:30 start on ABC and on Touchdown Radio here on SiriusXM. Give me the Tigers on the road. I know Ole Miss friends. Don't give me any grief. I'm taking LSU.
Ole Miss. Chambliss is a stud. You will see firsthand with your own eyes that I think he'll be the starting quarterback the rest of the year for Lane Kiffin.
Number 11, Indiana is at Iowa, 3:30 on Peacock. I will take Indiana on the road.
I'll take Indiana minus about 20. I'm not sure Iowa can score.
Number 15, Tennessee is at Mississippi State, 4:15 on SEC Network. Vols in Mississippi State's undefeated season.
Oh, okay. I thought you were. Yeah, I'll take Tennessee as well. I thought you were taking Mississippi State there. I was like, ooh, okay. No, I'll take Tennessee.
Number 3, Penn State's a 3.5-point favorite against number 6 Oregon on NBC on Saturday night. Oregon goes on the road and beats Penn State.
I'm going to take Penn State. I like Aller. You know what? Lanning's one of the best coaches. This is a hard pick because I like both of these programs right now, but I'll take Penn State because of the home matchup.
Number 17, Alabama is a 3-point dog at number 5, Georgia at 7:30 on ABC. Who you got, G?
I'm taking Georgia at home, and I know what that's going to do to the Alabama fans if Georgia takes care of Alabama at home. It makes it a 2-2 start for Alabama.
I agree. Dogs win it, and a great one Saturday night in the Hedges. I think that it's going to be an extremely close game. This is a much better Alabama team than what we saw against Florida State, and I think they'll prove that on Saturday night, but I think the Dogs are too much. Number 25, BYU, is at Colorado. That's the night game. I'm taking BYU on the road. I don't like this Buffs team as much as the last two.
I'm going against you. I think Colorado at home, even though BYU's favored by almost a touchdown, I'm going to take the Buffs at home. I think they turn it around right here at that late kick.
Okay, so we have some differences. I'm taking Notre Dame. You're taking Arkansas. I'll take LSU. You have Ole Miss. I've got A&M. You have Auburn. I'm taking BYU. You have Colorado. And I'm taking Oregon. You have Penn State. So 5 different picks this week. Bonus pick, less than a minute to go. The United States of America or the continent of Europe, Gino, in the Ryder Cup?
The United States of America, and I haven't watched a lot of golf, but I'm going to take the United States of America always.
USA 14.5, Europe 13.5 at Bethpage Black in the 45th Ryder Cup, heard on SiriusXM channel 92. We love channel 84. We love doing this show each and every week. We hope you'll have it locked over the weekend to listen to all these great games. College football is terrific. It always delivers, and you know that it will in week 5 of the college football season. And as a reminder, our touchdown radio game of the week is number 4 LSU at number 13 Ole Miss, and that is a 3:30 kick from Oxford, Mississippi at Vaught Hemingway Stadium. Cannot wait to listen to that. For Gino Torretta, I'm Taylor Zarzour. Thank you for listening to Touchdown Radio Tailgate here on SiriusXM Channel 84.